In the last episode, we talked about en bloc sales and what governs en bloc sales and the history of en bloc sales. In this current episode, we're going to talk about the master planning in Singapore, because that's a very essential part that affects and impacts en bloc sales in a big way. So what is master plan in Singapore? And how does it impact housing and development, especially on en bloc sales? So the master plan started in 1958. You guys know that Singapore gained independence, and then with that, there were a lot of urban planning ongoing in Singapore. So the first master plan that came about was in 1958, when they were addressing on housing shortage generally, urban renewal, transportation infrastructure, and etc. Then going forward from there on, mainly it concentrated around those areas closer to the central areas for redevelopment. As the years goes by, what happened was the master plan evolved again and was more into the new master plan into 1980. And the next set of changes looks into various aspects of growth, because Singapore was then growing as the economy, the industrialization, and of course with that, with a bigger manpower and population increase, there was a lot more changes. In fact, the master plan actually is a joint effort by several urban planners with 33 concept plans that form different parts of the studies and bring about, currently the latest master plan. And so every 5 years is reviewed to take into consideration the market changes, the requirement on population, the technology changes, sustainability efforts, and many other factors. So master plan is an evolvement with population, with industrialization, with technology change. And how does it impact on en bloc sales? Okay, one very key example is, for example, when we actually go into redeveloping properties from the 1980s master plan, chances is some of these plots of land were built on a lower density. And as the master plan evolved, there will be some changes, for example, on the plot ratio, and that's what we call intensification of the gross floor area. It means that you can increase the number of times you can build on the land. So what is plot ratio, right? Some of you will wonder what is exactly plot ratio. If the land is given 1.4 plot ratio, it can be built 1.4 times on the gross floor area. And if it's built up to 2.8 plot ratio, it can be built up to 2.8 times on the land area. So on a square footage of 10,000 square feet, you get 14,000 square feet. On the square footage of 10,000 square feet, on the 2.8 plot ratio, you get 28,000. That's simply said in a layman terms. So if you have a plot of land which was done early on in 1980 with a plot ratio of 1.4, and subsequently in 2001, for example, the plot ratio changes to 2.8. So that means that there is an intensification of the plot ratio, which means you can build more, and as such, there is an en bloc sales on that parcel of land. So that was what happened in the very early days of en bloc because of the change of plot ratio as we evolve with the urban planning directives that happen in Singapore. So that's one big part of plot ratio change. So what else does the master plan actually impact on this? For example, when they look into different areas of growth, and that's when there is a different intentional growth designed for different areas, activities grow in those areas. As such, land value increases. And because land value increases, when earlier on, this plot of property, this land that you sit on with, say, 20 owners, you're paying a relatively lower per square feet to buy it. And today, the land that you sit on has higher value. And that's why there is an en bloc potential, because land price has gone up. And that helps the owners to capture the premium for en bloc sales. So these are main two key factors that affect en bloc value on the land, which is why whenever there's a master plan change, it will directly or indirectly impact on pricing of the land in the surrounding as well as the final product for en bloc sales. So in short, master plan has a very direct and indirect impact on en bloc sales, and it will continue to happen as our population grows and the master plan is reviewed every 5, 10, or 15 years. So what are the other factors that will potentially affect en bloc? This is what we call external factors. For example, some of the external factors that affect the market is legality, for example, taxes. So ABSD. ABSD is a very common phrase that's right now the hot topic in Singapore because of the ever-changing ABSD that has been happening over the years. So ABSD affects the purchasing power of the consumers because you have to pay higher tax. So chances is less buyers will be in the market to buy properties. In the past year, there was this change in ABSD for developers, and these days developer has to pay 40% ABSD. That directly affect their interest to buy en bloc properties. Why? Because if they were to buy the land, they have to pay the ABSD of 40%. Even though there is a remission allowed, that would mean that they will have an upfront cost designed into the purchase of the plot of land. So this also impacts on en bloc sales directly. Especially so, in the very separate categories, which is quite unique, which is the 99 years properties. The 99 years properties, if they were going for en bloc, there is also this component called land betterment charge required. Land betterment charge is a tax payable on two things: intensification of the floor area. So earlier on, I mentioned from 1.4 to 2.8 plot ratio. That means that there is an intensification of the plot ratio, right? So LBC, land betterment charge, is payable. The second component that land betterment charge is payable is for the topping up of lease. This is especially for 99 years properties. If you are balanced with, say, 70 years, you have to top up 19 years to a full 99 years. And there is this component called LBC. So what happens? Because LBC cannot be borrowed from the bank, the developers would have to pay upfront this cost. Henceforth, in bigger properties with higher LBC for 99 years projects, developers will be more cautious in the selection of the land before they purchase the land. Of course, for developers with a huge amount of cash, then perhaps that's not something they don't worry about. But most developers will also consider the fact that there is risk involved in entering the market if LBC is substantially high. So this is the component of tax that it directly impact on en bloc sales. And of course, for individual purchaser, you now have a lesser chance to buy more residential properties with ABSD, given that you have to pay higher ABSD for every properties. So your selection of en bloc properties would have to be very well selected, and you should understand how to identify, negotiate, and choose the right property to buy so that you have a higher chance of getting the en bloc potential that you wish you can have. Other external factors that affect would be market changes. Given the current uncertainty in the market with the wars happening and a lot of external political situations in the surrounding, higher interest rates, that will also directly impact on en bloc sales. Because it is a direct relationship, it's actually a cycle. The developer must have confidence to buy the land so that they will pay a good price for the en bloc buyers. And when the en bloc buyers exit with a good sale price, they will also re-enter into the market to buy other new units in the market. And when the developer buys at a certain price, he would have to price a future pricing for their properties in 2 to 3 years' time. So unless they see an upside in the market, then it will give them confidence to enter the market and choose your en bloc properties to purchase from. So it is a direct relationship between the buyer and the seller in a ecosystem itself. So which is why it is important to understand the market and learn from the experts what to look out for when you choose your en bloc properties so that you don't make the mistakes that others have made, without finding out and researching enough, knowing what to invest in. So in this episode, we talk about the master planning and how does it directly and indirectly impact the market for en bloc sales, as well as all the external factors that can impact en bloc sales, the interest of the buyers in the market, especially the developers. So importantly, it is for us to note that the government actually plays a very important role in the managing of the speculation in the market, which is why they come up with cooling measures now and then to slow down the market such that the market doesn't go overheated. So it is important not to just understand master planning, but also to understand what are the governmental changes, regulations that will directly and indirectly impact en bloc sales. In the next episode, we're going to cover the legalities for en bloc sales, not so known to some of you due to its technicalities. And I'm going to make it simple for you to understand so that if you were going to go for an en bloc sale property, to acquire one in the near future, you know what to do for en bloc sales. So if you like today's episode and you would like to see more contents like this on en bloc sales and lesser known investing strategies, like, share and subscribe to our channel. And I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.